I really like the idea of having something that somebody else worked with before. It's something that comes with not just the object, but comes with a story. So I ended up with a giant yard of stuff.
Ian MacGregor loves collecting old stuff. His property near Cochrane, Alberta is filled with it. Ian is an engineer who was born, raised, and educated in Calgary. As a young man, he borrowed $2,500 from his dad to start a business repairing oil drilling rigs.
Built that up into a decent engineering company. Went broke in the National Energy Program of 1988. Started over, started building gas plants, then sold that business. Had oil companies, cryogenic processing businesses, offshore drilling rigs, pretty well everything in the energy business from, upstream, downstream, midstream, every stream.
His engineering career has allowed him to find and collect many old tools and machines. One of his most prized possessions is an old Buick, like the one he had as a kid.
When I was 12, my mother and dad were always terrified that I'd start riding around on motorcycles because I was already by that point taking lots of stuff apart and, like machines and things. So they made the deal with me. We would get some kind of old car and they would help me fix it up. So we were on holidays driving through Cranbrook. We saw this old car in a lumber mill there and went over, and it was a 31 Buick, and so they bought it for me. Spent $150 buying it, brought it back to Calgary, and we didn't have a heated garage, so we put the car out in the backyard, and I took it as far apart as you can take a car, hauled all the pieces downstairs, and then one at a time fixed them up and took them back out. And when I was 16, I got in the car and drove away. Well, it taught me a few things. My mother and my father picking something like that for me and just having the care and the attention to be able to do that, to figure out what does this kid need. And then the second thing is just showing someone how you can take on something that's it looks like it's daunting. This is an impossible thing for a 12-year-old kid to do. But it's really, I can teach the kid how big things yield to sustain continuous, diligent effort. And so, that's a big lesson for me. Yeah.
It's a good thing that Ian has learned how to take on big projects. One of his biggest has been dealing with his growing collection of tools and machines. So he's made his home into the Canadian Museum of Making.
And so I started on the quest to build a museum. I had a concept that I'd get it all displayed and be able to use it for both educational purposes, keep myself happy, so I go and look at it when I felt like it and work in that environment. And then the third thing was I wanted to use it as a sort of magnet for unique personalities, because lots of people are interested that show up and we have a lot of fun talking to them.
The museum centers around the industrial revolutions. That's revolutions plural. Ian says that there were more than one.
The first industrial revolution was in Africa, where people learned how to make things from metal and iron. And then, it kind of died out there, but it was disseminated to Europe. And then it was followed by what we think of as the real industrial revolution, when people learned how to harness steam using iron manufactured objects. I collect probably 4 different types of things. I collect tools, which are the most interesting thing to me. Tools often have a sort of derivative of tools is weapons. So there's always weapons and tools are kind of things together. There's currency there, and then there's sort of religious or ceremonial objects.
Items from the European Industrial Revolution date from 1840 through World War I, about 1918. Ian opens his museum to a few thousand visitors each year.
Part of the fun for me is seeing how they react to the scope, scale, and we tried to do it as good as we could, so I want to see how people react to that. I have this idea that I try and communicate to engineers and art students that if you're an engineer and you want your stuff to survive, if you're making functional objects, only beautiful things will survive, because they'll lose their functionality over time. So, if you make something today, 10 years from now, there's going to be something that does it a lot better. But somebody will still save the beautiful ones, and they'll end up being on somebody's wall someplace, or they'll be in their drawer, or they'll be their favorite thing. And so I try and communicate that to the meager extent that I can to other engineers and other people that have a role in making things. We have an open day a couple of times a year. We usually get people from different kind of clubs that make stuff. So sometimes there'll be young kids that are, making robots and computer stuff. Model T club, Model A club, motorcycle club. Sometimes a bunch of machinists will come through. It's fun. you have a laugh doing it. You meet some people that you have a good laugh with. You laugh till you cry some days. So it's not, I mean, it isn't some like giant collection exercise. It's like, how do I interact with people that have done amazing things in their lives making stuff? You're not doing it for some grand purposes to assemble all this stuff. You're doing it to have a good laugh. That's the reason for doing it.
If you have an idea for Northwest Profiles, send it to KSPS TV, 3911 South Regal, Spokane, Washington 99223. Northwest Profiles is a presentation of KSPS Public Television.